Okay guys, this is part 2, talking about the next big thing, 16 and 22 inch multifunction displays for your electronics. If you haven't seen part 1, there's a link right there. Talk a lot about pricing and other things, how they work in part 1. Part 2, a little bit more about how they work, what they work with, and then we're going to learn more from Mitch and Michael about how the products come into the market in the U.S.
All right, so how did you guys meet?
I was over at Santee Cooper pre-fishing for one of my Pro Tour tournaments. He was over there filming for the Bass Elites. He's got a couple of elite pro staffers, Jacob Fouts. There was 4 or 5 others you were actually helping film in the house and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and so by the way, that's interesting to note. You basically went on tour for a year, right?
Yeah, for almost a full season there, except the northern swing. I didn't do that, unfortunately, because we had to focus on this, which is much more important currently. So,
but you took your bass boat, took your drone, took all your cameras, and went and basically became a professional cameraman to see how they beat the crap out of their stuff.
I wanted to experience it all. I've never been down south, so in the middle of the winter, I called up Jacob. We got together. He's like, sure, you can come do some stuff for us. Packed up my boat, my truck, and I drove literally 35 hours to Florida.
35 hours?
Yeah, from northern Ontario to Okeechobee was about 35 hours. We hung out, got some cool stuff done, and I really got to see how those guys used their tech. Right?
And abused their tech.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. All right, sorry, Michael, I cut you off there.
No worries. So we were, like I said, down there practicing pre-practice for an MPFL event. We went out to dinner. A couple of guys knew him, said he was coming. I think it was Mitchell Elsey, if I'm correct. And I met this kid that talked really fast. In 30 seconds, I figured out I didn't understand anything he was talking about. About another 2 minutes later, I looked at a fellow MPFL angler, and I looked at this grown man who was retired and very successful. I said, you know the kid's the smartest guy in the building, right? And the guy looked at me and he said, probably the smartest guy in South Carolina. So it was intriguing to me, a lot of respect for him. He's 20 years old. And
had you seen a unit at this point?
No, I haven't seen one. We walked outside after we ate and looked at 2 22-inch screens on his boat. Well, me and Mitch had stayed in touch. I wanted a couple of units on my boat. About a month and a half later, he called me and said, I want your opinion about a business deal. I didn't think the deal was too fair on his end. I thought there was some sharks involved. I said, look, Mitch, if you drive down here, I'll buy the room. I'll put you up for 2 days. If we can make a fair business deal and everybody is okay with and happy and you like it, we'll do something with you. So he immediately drove all night long, I think. I got to the hotel. We met, spent about 3 days together. I was intrigued by it. The unit's incredibly built. I heard all the stories of the growing pains, started in the basement and having to throw so many units away and start all over and stuff. I just had a lot of respect for a kid at 20 that went and built this and started.
Absolutely. Who doesn't love an entrepreneur, right?
So we worked out a fair deal. He left and went home to Canada. His dad came down. I met the family. We ended up going in partners on MBT Marine. So we moved him from Canada down to Jones Marine Electronics. We warehouse them, we ship them, we collect payment, we do everything out of Texarkana, Arkansas. These units come with a 2-year full factory warranty. You send them in. If we can't fix them within 3 to 5 business days, we will send you a brand new unit. We have parts, we have new monitors, we always have stock. We're set up and ready to roll.
Talk about that. So if I bang a 1-ounce tungsten weight off a Berg or off a Garmin or off a Lowrance and I bring them in and say, hey man, I cracked my screen, what are you going to say to me?
A lot of the companies can't fix them at all. We can repair your screen for $1,000.
I'm talking about other people's units. What happened?
Other units.
Are you going back to the factory?
They go to the factory. Most of the ones, to our knowledge, they can't do anything with it. They can't fix it. They don't repair them at
not a warranted item. You're kind of screwed.
You're kind of SOL.
Yeah.
The way Mitch designed this was very smart. We actually replaced the button on a customer's. It was the old style button. It's stuck.
Yeah, it was one that stopped triggering.
So and that was probably a unit 6. We're on 8 now. So these have a new style button that doesn't do that, but the touch screen quit working. And Mitch and I he showed me how to take one apart. repair it, put it back together. 30-minute process.
Yeah, pretty fast.
So reseal it, didn't damage anything. The boat, it went back on the boat, and he's running it, and everything's fine.
So right now, the 22-inch units are pretty rare, right?
Pretty rare, hard to get our hands on. We did get a shipment of 50 in the other day. We have about 30 left. There's a lot of talk. We're signing up dealers. There's a lot of interest in them.
Crappie guys got to be gobbling these up.
They are. You know, August, September, and October is the worst time of year for fishing. It's hot. Unless you have a championship, nobody's fishing. We have tons of traction with the crappie guys. Mitch is going to be down at a crappie expo. Where's that at?
That will be in Birmingham, Alabama.
He will have units there. We'll have a display. We'll have full functioning. You can see them work. You can talk to us. And we'll have units for sale there as well.
Okay. And then once these first 40-ish units are gone, or what are left, kind of when would you anticipate more stock?
We have another 50 coming in 2 to 4 weeks.
Okay, so we've got some units right now.
We're rolling units about every 45 to 60 days.
And you guys are making a 22 and a
16.
Okay. All right, guys, we moved across the lake to get out of the wind a little bit. So that is not a fish finder.
No, sir. It's a multi-function display, an MFD.
All right. So explain to guys how it works. Let's just start with Michael's boat, because Michael, as you can see, that's actually Garmin LiveScope, right?
Correct.
Yes.
All right. So that's a Humminbird unit. That's not a fish finder. How is that Garmin LiveScope?
Okay, so it's a multi-function display, and this is where it gets everyone confused and tricked, and we're going to try and explain that in the most simplest way possible. The idea is it's full touchscreen, copies everything in the same high definition as just about every other high-end graph on the market, and it runs 2 cables. That's it. And they go from the front unit, they link all the way to your console 12-inch unit. It has to be a Garmin 86 of some sort, or a 1243, or an 8700 black box like we have installed in this boat. Michael Yoder's a pro fisherman. He does not want to have another Garmin at the console because he wants to have his Lowrance for its special purposes, its Humminbird for its special purposes, and its Humminbird up here for his mapping because that's what he likes. He wanted a Garmin LiveScope, so he didn't want to have that other unit at the console. He didn't want it taking up space. So we offer the 8700 black box combo. So that 8700.
All right, so let me, you explained this to me the other day in a way that made sense to me.
Okay.
So in effect, it's a Humminbird, but the guts is the black box on a unit.
Correct. So the black box we're about to show you is literally, you take any high-end fish finder on the market, you take the screen off it, and then you just put some plastic over it, and then you have all your ports and your brains and all your guts in a box.
All right, so what you're doing here largely was originally designed for the offshore market, right?
Yes, sir, that's correct. This technology is nothing new. It seems like a shock to people how I'm doing this or what we're doing, but this has been done for years in giant yachts and offshore boats. The only thing that we changed is we made a sunlight readable, heat-proof, waterproof, gimbal-mounted giant version that can go on your inshore boats, the front of your offshore boats that aren't inlaid, like, you know, just put it right on the bow of those inland, what are those called? Those bay boats?
Yep.
Bay boats, and we made this option more affordable and easier for those guys to use.
And by the way, so you mentioned earlier gimbal mount. That's a kind of a big deal, right? So you got to be able to mount it the way that unit's mounted. And by the way, guys, let me show you how incredibly thin this unit is. The unit is really, really thin. If a guy's going to buy this unit, where does he have to go then to get the mount to put it on?
The mount and everything comes standard in the box. It comes with a CNC gimbal bracket that's built for rough water. It's very tough, and it has CNC billet knobs to screw in the side, your hand knobs, with locking mechanisms on the inside, so you can actually put an Allen key in it and crank it right down and get it super tight.
And so, again, you and I talked about this off camera. I spent several $100s for my mounting bracket on my boat, because even on pretty much all of them, they're cheapy. They really not made them nice and heavy, and this one is brushed, or it's aluminum and it's heavy and it's coated, right?
Yes, and it comes with the unit in the box. Everything you need is in the box. Cornfield Fishing is a company that we worked with in the past, we're working with now. They have built a low profile aftermarket gimbal bracket for this unit. So you can get that from Cornfield Fishing as well. If you need something that is it's more low profile and it's got adjustment in the mount, it can pivot up and down in the mount.
Okay.
Before we get too far, let's show where the black box is.
Yeah, let's do.
8700 black box. I do not have a Garmin unit on this boat. I have the Garmin 8700 black box mounted right here. I have 2 live scopes.
This is the box.
That's the 8700 black box. Yes, sir. Right there. So I've got 2 scopes, one for perspective, one for traditional, and then I'm running the 8700 black box, which ultimately is the same thing as running one of their 8000 series graphs.
Okay, so you either got to have, well, first off, you got to have a live scope transducer, right? I mean, that's price of admission on everything.
And the black box that goes with it. The
Or
live scope transducer and the black box. You cannot just hook the live scope transducer into this new box.
Oh, good point. Good point. So a live scope transducer actually has its own box. That's one of the things you just pointed at down there.
Yes, I wanted them to see that because when you order your live scope LVS 34 system, it's going to come with deucer, your cables, and their black box. It's a GLS 10 black box. Now, this is an 8700 black box. To keep me from having to run a Garmin head unit, I've got it stowed away in the rod box, out of the way, and I can run my live scope on the 22 up here.
Okay, so that's option 1. Guy doesn't have a Garmin, right? He just wants to have live scope and either the 22, and I'm going to get it wrong, 16-inch screen.
Yes.
All right, so he needs a transducer, the deucer box, cables that come with it, that head unit, and a black box.
Yes.
Guy's already got a 8000 series Garmin and already got his live scope. What does he need? By the way, this is take 400. Guy already has a 8000 series Garmin, already has live scope. What's he need to get that 22-inch to work?
He just needs to buy the MBT Marine MFD model.
That's it.
22-inch. Everything comes in the box. He's ready to hook up. All he's got to do is run 2 wires to the back.
That's it.
That's it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Simple.
Now, talk a little bit, Mitch, about, and by the way, what's Mitch's nickname?
NASA. We
NASA.
named him NASA.
I like it. All right, NASA. So talk a little bit about, and this is for everybody. This has nothing to do with this unit, but you understand this stuff. So I have an Echo map in my boat, and I have an 8000 series in my boat. Talk about the difference in the screens.
So just how everything is made in the world, from cars, from your limited F-150 to your Platinum, everything has trim models. So just like fish finders, the EcoMap is your starter trim model. Great fish finder, works for lots of people. Then you have the hardcore guys that out there that want to get that trim model. That is the Platinum. It's got better resolution, so that'd be your 8600 model with the full HD, has all the pixel counts. It's slimmer, it's smaller, it's full touch screen, there's no key assisted buttons on it, comes with a better gimbal mount. And so when I designed our unit, we had to match that. We didn't want no lower trim model option. We wanted our option to be as premium is the premium from all the other brands. So we mounted it with a CNC gimbal. It's full HD, 1920 by 1080 pixel count, so it's very high resolution. It's full CNC metal. There's no plastic on any of our units, and it's full glass touchscreen.
And by the way, guys, I'm gonna, although I'm not authorized to say this, they shared with me just what the cost of the back of the unit is, and it's staggering what that aluminum back of that unit costs. I'm not going to ask you to say it on camera, but I couldn't believe how much, because I was thinking, oh, you can knock this thing out for $400 or $500. You can't. I mean, when one piece costs way more than just that, these are not cheap to build the way you built them. All right, last follow-up question about kind of the technical of it. You said to me, you can or you can't mirror, and I know there's a caveat to this, but you can or you can't mirror my Echo map.
You cannot. There's no possible way. And it's not because they're not a good enough unit. They're great little units. It's just they don't have enough processing power. They don't have the proper ports, and they weren't designed to do that. Garmin designed their 8600 series to do this. It's nothing new. I just decided we're going to bring it to this whole era of fishing and take it from the offshore saltwater stuff and advance it and bring it to the inshore freshwater.
All right, so say a guy either doesn't want the price point of what we're going to talk about in a minute, or has other Garmin units. What other Garmin units can you still use the technology with, and talk about any drawbacks there might be.
For sure. So the guys out there that might have bought those 1243s, which is also a great unit, they're just under that full HD. They're that 720p that you watch on YouTube that you might want to just bump up.
You know, and I'm glad you said that, because that made so much sense to me when you said, think of all the units Michael described as being 1080p when you're watching YouTube, because you guys are watching this on YouTube, versus 720, which is what these other units kind of are, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
And they're a little bit different sizing. So your 1243 is actually going to be taller and skinnier than your 8612. They're both 12-inch units, but one's wider, one's taller. So when you display a 1243 or an 8610 onto our big units, you will find that you lose a little bit of the screen on each side. It drops the size down. And that's in order because our unit's going to take what that one's putting out and it's going to upscale it to full HD, which is that 1080p that you're going to see. You're going to lose very minimal amounts on a 22-inch screen. You're going to lose about a half-inch. Is that really a big deal for the amount of savings you're going to get with a 1243 or an 8610? We have lots of guys that say otherwise. They love them still, and they just go along with their day. And one day, maybe they'll upgrade to an 8612 for their console or somewhere else in the boat.
But it's just like what happens on my TV when I watch a movie and it kind of modifies the screen shape, right?
That's correct.
Because it's the same thing.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But again, I just want to clarify for guys, you're not, when you are pulling the information, if you will, from say a 1200 series, you can't improve it.
All right, that's incorrect.
Okay.
It's upscaling it. That's the reason why
It does upscale it, okay.
So you go from that 720p to that HD on our screen, and that's why you get the bars. Because if we didn't have the bars and it copied the resolution to that 720p, it looks stretched and blurry, but ours automatically picks it up, downscales it, reads the other unit that's coming into it, and gives you that full HD.
Okay. And so we talked about it earlier, but the kind of the three issues you've had with this were heat, you've resolved that.
That's correct.
Right? Polarization.
That's correct.
Resolved that.
Yes.
And you had some button issues.
That's correct. We had some different buttons that I was playing with that we tried, and that's a whole nother feature on the unit that no other units have that we added. And that was a little bit of a learning curve, but we finally got around that, so we're proud of that one as well.
So this unit is touch capable.
That's correct. Fully touchscreen.
On any unit I'm going to use the term mirroring.
Yeah, any unit you have it linked to, it is touch capable.
And just to clarify for guys, any functionality I have on my Garmin unit, I have on this unit.
That's correct.
Multiple screens, looking at my map, looking at anything.
That's correct.
Mitch, as I look at this, one of the questions that comes to my mind is, this has got to burn a lot of energy.
No, actually it doesn't. It's very power efficient. One of these 8700 boxes that we showed, so this exact setup, a 22-inch and an 8700 box, pulls about the same amperage draw as a 16-inch unit of other brands.
Really? So I'm not really going to burn my batteries up faster.
Not at all.
All right. How much? So I'm running 4 units now, 4 fully functioning units, right?
That's correct.
What do I have? I have, well, actually, crap, I have 5. So I've got 2 Garmin's. Guys, we're laughing because I can't remember what I have on my own boat. So say we're running 4 units right now, and we drop one of the units and we mirror one of the Garmin's onto that. Do I reduce my power consumption?
You sure would. So the unit itself runs about the same amount of amperage as a 12-inch in other brands comparable. So say you had 2 up there and you went to one big 22 and you still got your 2 at your console, you would save about 1 unit's worth of amperage.
Okay, excellent. So this is the way a lot of pros are running this unit. So they're running the perspective on the right, or the search mode, what I call it, and then running the traditional live scope on the left, and they're looking for the fish on the right, and then when they close in on them, they're using that screen on the left. That is smallmouth fishing 101 right there, correct?
Sort of, if you're going bed fishing or whatnot, but the main thing is you're sitting here, you find the little dot on here, you line it up, 1 tap, and you're full back to live scope. You're 1 tap, you're back to this one. It's all super quick, so you don't have to worry about going into menus, changing through everything. You have all these quick function buttons.
Cool. Give me the 12 and 12 again, or the full split screen. Mitch, say I want to go from this to really kind of a split screen. How do you do that?
You go into your options menu here, edit combo. You have this unlimited split, we call it. So you can drag this to go wherever you want. You can go more live scope,
Yep.
less that. You can go right down the middle. That's pretty close. We'll try and get as close as we can get it. And then you have all your options to go half and half, 60-40, you know, whatever else you want to do.
So now, in fact, I have a 13-inch live scope and roughly a 13 inch. I don't know how that math works out that way, but that's what I'm getting, right?
Yep.
I'm getting really big screens on one unit. I mean, truthfully, other than guys who really want a different unit for mapping because they like another map, there's not a lot of reason to have a second unit up here anymore.
Not at all.
Boys, I mean, look at that. That's a 13 sitting next to a 22. That's a giant unit. That's bigger than any unit on my boat. And this thing just absolutely dwarfs it.
This one's really common too.
Yep.
That one's
Now
super
again,
common.
we're on a lake that doesn't have mapping, but if the mapping was there, you'd see it. I mean, you can see on the Humminbird, there's no map for this little lake either. But
Do some measuring up on that one there, because that's a really nice combo if you're fishing with a single unit.
so big one is, I mean, 13. That's a 10, and that's a 10. That's crazy.
Your average guy's running a 10 right now, so you're set.
Hey, Daddy, can I get one?
As soon as you figure out if you're selling your boat or you're getting a new one.
That's really cool, guys. Again, I'm forgetting about MBT for a minute, but if I want an HD Lowrance, Humminbird, or Garmin unit, what do I have to buy? The Garmin's are the 8000 series?
8000 Garmin's, the Lowrance is going to be your HDS Live Pro.
Okay.
And the Humminbird is going to, the Solix, but then they went ahead and made one up from that. It's called the Apex.
Which is what you're running.
Which is what I'm running right now.
Same roughly resolution?
The Apex just has a lot more features. It's that Platinum series Mitch was talking about. All the features.
It's the King Ranch F-150.
It's the King Ranch.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay. And again, you can run whatever you want, and you're running the Apex.
Yes. You could run whatever you want. We can build any name brand system up here.
Well, and I mean, I love the fact that you run everything, and you're like me, right? I'm running 2 different units. Yes. I love the Humminbird mapping, but I like the Garmin side imaging and down imaging and live scope. So that's why I'm running both.
I do want to point out, at the shop, we do have a 16 and 22 on display. You can also run the active target, run your Lowrance system. However, you do have to buy a Simrad box. But with one Simrad box, you could ultimately run up to 4 MBT units. Am I correct?
That's correct.
So if you love Lowrance, you love your active target, you don't want to go Garmin, you can get a Simrad box. You don't even have to have a graph. You don't even have to have a Lowrance graph with the Simrad box. You would just buy your MBT monitors.
So in this boat here,
so this is an old 520 Ranger.
yes, yeah, this is about an 09 520. So he already had an 8610 and an 8612 on this boat. So what we did was we added.
Is that a 10-inch?
That is an 8610.
Oh my
yes.
God, it looks like an iPhone.
Yeah, it does. Compared to that 16, it's incredible. So we've got the networks, you know, that are in with the NBT crossed in this boat. So you've got your 10 and your 16 here with your live scope, and then at the back here.
I can't believe how little that 10-inch unit looks.
You have an 8612 here, and you have the NBT 16 here. So you can still run your side scans, run your live scopes, you know, run however you want to. You know, take this screen over here to a mapping screen for while you're driving around, you know, all of that.
All right, guys, so remember, a unit is measured this way, not this way. So for example, this is a 12.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a 12-inch screen, but the unit's barely 12 inches wide. So if you think about that, that's all a 22-inch unit would be, is right there. So you're really, I mean, it wouldn't be nearly as much space as what this is eating up. You could set it where it's way inside the console to the left, right? And right there. And how tall is that unit? 13?
13.
So the unit would be, you could lower that unit all the way down to the top of your steering wheel, and it would be about that tall. So you're really not obstructing your view at all.
Not at all.
That's really cool. And I talked about this earlier. Look at the depth of the Garmin versus the depth of the NBT, right? Roughly 3 inches versus 2 inches. Now, an inch ain't a lot. Okay, I'm not going there, but an inch ain't a lot. But when you start pushing stuff against that dash, it gives you more space up here. That's a cool setup on this boat. And again, it looks huge.
Oh yeah. All right, guys, just to show you, this is exactly the page that your Garmin is going to put out. If I wanted to pause the screen, I can pause the screen. If I want to go into 80, 70 foot, I'm going to go in. I like to run mine at 100 to 120 with the big screen. If I hit the home page, I've got all the screens that my Garmin has. I can build my screens. I can have combos. I can do everything that they do.
And you said on my boat, I can actually shoot both my live scopes on one screen.
Yes, you can shoot both your live scopes on one screen. All you have to do is make that combo, okay?
Got it.
All right, guys, to show you the button that we talked about that disables your touch, it's over here on the side. I'm going to hit it one time. No touch. I can clean my screen. I'm not going to mess it up. You can't make it stop or go anywhere because.
So wait a minute. Say you've got your 4-year-old out with you crappie fishing. He can't touch the screen and change it?
No, he can touch the screen and play, but it doesn't affect my settings at all.
It's a 4-year-old version button. Got it.
Yep. And a wife version button.
I'm not even going there. Sorry, Marcia.
So I need to change something, or I've already cleaned my screen. I want to engage my touch. I'm going to simply hit the button on the side, and now my touch is back working again. So back to working on my touch. I can pause my unit. I can do that.
Cool. All right. So I'm thinking, 22-inch unit, basically I can have two 11-inch live scopes at the same time.
Yes.
That's awesome.